You're watching SuckProfessor. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. I'm joined by
James.
James. There he is. We're in our Valheim world, my Valheim world. This is the playthrough world, but we're talking about the Suicide Squad.
This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
I'm a superhero!
That's my dad.
This is one of our trademark podcasts, as you guys know. By the way, hello, it's me, Hank. I'm on camera. James, unfortunately, the cameras don't work on him. He's kind of like a modern vampire, you know? Like mirrors don't work on the old vampires. Well, the new vampires don't work on James. Right, James?
Yes.
I said
exactly.
new vampires. I meant to say cameras. Okay. Confusing. But, yeah, we're talking about the Suicide Squad. And as is custom around here, James and I are the one and only source for information and opinions on the internet, particularly on the Suicide Squad. We are professionals. We are experts. Every other opinion or information about it is wrong. This is the truth. Everything we say is going to be written down in the halls of sacred texts that God keeps up in God's data library. James?
No, I like that every single time you referred to the movie, you said The Suicide Squad, which is perfectly accurate because it's super confusing. There are two of them.
See? Exactly.
One is called Suicide Squad, and this is called The Suicide Squad.
Yes, because I was confused about it before we started talking, and I Googled it like 5 minutes ago. That's how I know, because I got the right text on screen. I wasn't sure if this was a reboot or a sequel, and apparently it's neither. I don't know what that means. James?
Yeah, James Gunn kind of says a lot of times when you ask that kind of question in interviews and things like that, he just says, don't worry about it. Have fun. Don't worry about it. And the thing that makes it so confusing is there are three characters that reprise their roles from the original one in this one, but they make no reference back to the original movie. So it's like they're playing the same character as the same actor in a very comparable movie, but it's not the same.
So it's like, this is like that one holiday where grandma got a little too drunk and no one, fell down and killed the cat, right before. But she was also carrying the turkey, and the turkey landed on the cat. The other cat killed that cat. So we have two dead cats and a really embarrassed grandma, and we don't want to talk about that one anymore. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. We're gonna have another one later. This is the second one because the first one was a giant flop. The first one was about as bad as movies can get, right?
Well,
just bizarre, bad.
I don't want to be too harsh on it. It's been a while since I saw it. I didn't really enjoy it when I saw it, but from what I can tell, it's a competent movie, but it takes itself more seriously than the genre really dictates. I mean, this is a tongue-in-cheek DC failed, pathetic villain movie. It really needed that quirky, comedic James Gunn vibe to it to really make it work. So I think this one is vastly superior, but the other one, I mean, it has its merits on its own. It's just not my cup of tea.
Well, that's awful nice of you, man. That is... That's it. The first one was a horrible shit show, and it was a terrible film. But you did... But like the tone of the first one was just out of control. It just made no sense, and things were goofy. But like I would say that in this movie, by the way, big spoilers here, and of course you guys probably already know that, but they kind of nailed the tone, I would suggest. And not that I'm familiar with the Suicide Squad material. Also, I just want to be clear, everything I said at the beginning about us being the authorities here, I was teeing up James to correct me, because normally that makes you uncomfortable.
Well, as long as you're the expert, I'm comfortable sitting back.
There is no expertise here, is the point. So I just want that to be for new people. Our regulars already understand that, but I was hoping you would correct me on that. That was the whole point, was that wasn't true. Because I literally don't know shit about any of this. So the first one, are the first movie and second movie similar in plot? Do you know?
Very similar in plot. It's the same kind of setup. It's the U.S. government has these. I don't want to say supervillains because they're not really that super, but they have these kind of B-grade villains.
Above
in-
average villains. They're not
Well,
like
so-
the yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of them are, yeah. But they have them in custody. They've been arrested for their various crimes over the years. And they offer them a chance, not a chance of redemption, but I think they're saying they're going to take 10 years off their sentence if they sign up to do these covert missions for the U.S. government outside of, normal legal jurisdictions. And if they succeed, they get the 10 years off. If they don't succeed, well, they die because these missions are suicide missions. But the actual name of the squad that they go on is called Task Force X. It's not called Suicide Squad, but the prisoners have come to refer to it as Suicide Squad because most people who go out there don't come back.
So the Suicide Squad is a colloquialism developed within the prison culture to describe this program of severe abuse that the government is imposing on them by putting explosives in their heads and forcing them to do violence on their behalf.
The next question I was going to ask you is how do they keep them in check? How do they release them into the wild and force them to do a mission without them defecting? And
Right.
like you said, bomb in the brain.
Yeah, bomb in the
Or
brain.
the spinal cord or wherever.
Yeah. Well, sure. If you blow up the spinal cord, you're also blowing up the brain. I would say even just a chunk of the spinal cord. You don't even have to just run a cord up the whole thing. It's like the spinal cord is sort of like a long brain. It's like the brain. If the brain had a tail, it'd be a bony tail with a brain inside of it. The spinal cord.
Yeah. Basically the part that the predator
Over time.
keeps.
The what?
The part that the predator keeps.
Yeah, what the predator keeps. What Sub-Zero rips out of his opponents when he finishes them.
Sub-Zero wins.
Was Sub-Zero, was he the one that did the brain pull, the spine yank?
It was a pretty generic move. I think multiple characters could do that because back in the in the original Mortal Kombat there really wasn't a lot of variety to what you could do. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of uppercuts, heads knocking off, spinal cords coming out, and so forth. So I wouldn't say it's solely Sub-Zero's thing.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, so they'll blow up their heads. And the other way they use to control them is to threaten to post their dick pics on social media, which is another way of getting prisoners to do stuff.
Now that would be a good, a bad supervillain, the Catfish.
The Catfish.
'Cause that's that whole scam right there.
Because of a scam, or yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, so okay, the premise of the movie that's sort of the premise of the whole world of Suicide Squatters of Team Force X or whatever, that was as you just described. Does the comparing the first movie to the second movie though, is it the same villain and the same kind of like they gotta rush to the same problem where they have to go to this island?
No.
Totally
No,
different. That's totally different.
Totally different plot.
Okay.
The first one, it was the Enchantress that they were going after, who actually was a member of Task Force X, who just basically goes rogue because she's an archaeologist possessed by an ancient enchantress, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's a
Classic.
government experiment that has been co-opted by a foreign coup d'etat and
Yeah.
all that. I don't want to get too much into it right now
Well,
because
you can.
you want to go ahead and just like lay out the whole plot, like
Sure.
start to finish what happens.
Yeah, I'm good at this. This is my specialty. The guy from Slither is one of the best movies. If you haven't seen Slither, Google it. Look up the movie Slither. Get a hold of it. Watch it. It's a fun route. But the guy from that movie is introduced as the opening character, and you think that he's sort of introduced as an all-purpose badass. He's been caught by the government, and he's what is it like? He's just a warrior who doesn't always gets it done. Everything turns into a deadly weapon in his hands or some shit like that. That's like a phrase
This is Savant, right? Michael Rooker.
Yeah, Michael Rooker, if that's whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's introduced, and so the opening scene is about kind of like a very fast forward version of building a squad and sending them off, and you can kind of tell they're playing with you a little bit. Like they have the Weasel, which is a fun introduction, and they send them off to to invade some island. They have to arrive by boat or some shit. I am going a little granular at the beginning here, then I'll get to the bigger plot. Really quickly, it turns out they're outgunned and overwhelmed, and they want to turn back. Each character has their own, and they introduce the Blades guy, or the what was it, the guy with arms that fly around.
TDK.
TDK, played by
Nathan Fillion.
Firefly's Nathan Fillion, exactly, and which I did not recognize. I saw Nathan Fillion in the opening credit sequence, which is annoying because I like movies where the less I know, and then you see all those like character names, actor names. It's like I don't want to know Jeffrey Tambor is in Transparent. Fuck
but
off.
They want you to know.
I know that's what they choose
They
for
love
you
their
to see.
credits.
Yeah, of course. We all love the credits, but I mean, people who are in stuff want their names in the credits and stuff. So anyway, that's mild spoilers at the beginning. That's just sort of like a generic thing in general. But I didn't know Jean-Luc Picard was in Star Trek. Ruins every single episode is ruined by that. But anyway, so this first group is these prisoners, and there's the Weasel. I'm sure I'm not going to get them all. There's I did have some notes. The arms guy with what is it? I keep wanting to say bow ties, but they're worse. They're like huge bow ties that fly. Boomerangs.
Yes, boomerang.
A bow tie villain guy with like sharp bow ties. That would be pretty cool. I'm getting fucking texts from people that are trying to get me to vote to protect Gavin Newsom in the California's recall race. Let's set that aside. So they go to the island and they realize they're outgunned and outmatched. And they actually, like, I thought they struck a pretty exciting tone off the bat. I'm not a big action movie guy. Like, I tend to get bored. I don't really hate them. I just sort of like lose the thread and kind of just don't care. But this movie actually pulled me in fairly quickly. I keep saying actually, I would say. They start to die in funny ways. Oh, Pete Davidson, the comedian SNL guy. I've never seen him act. I don't know why he's famous. He's married to like Daria or somebody really famous or some shit. I don't know. He dies, thankfully, early on. His head gets exploded, I think, or something like that. Because I was kind of like going to give him a chance. I was like, oh, I mean, the guy's got a career. Let's see. Maybe he's not that bad an actor. But mercifully, they kill Pete Davidson very early, which is fun. And so anyway, as these guys are getting their asses handed to them in funny and interesting ways, and we'll get back to the Weasel one because I want to point out that one specifically. It's also we're also sort of introduced to another group that's showing up on a different part of the island. Is that right, James? So now we have two.
Yeah, there's a lot to go through in that floor. Pete Davidson is not married, for one thing. I don't know.
I keep hearing about he's dating. Well, Colin Jost is married to Scarlett Johansson.
Yes,
which is bullshit.
that is true.
What did she lose a dare? Jesus, what the fuck?
Well, he's very rich.
Yeah, fuck that.
Well, so was she.
She could do better than him. Me.
He's like a nice guy. He's a funny guy.
I'm sure he's fine. It's just come on, give me a break. Saturday Night Live, fucking joke. So yeah, Pete Davidson. Okay, so anyway, the plot then.
So
Okay.
you were basically asking, why there are two task forces on the island.
Sure,
already.
and this is all within like the first 5 minutes or so of the movie.
Okay, so basically, the leader of this whole big charade thing is Amanda Waller. She's the government official that goes in and sets up these covert missions.
Okay.
She had two task squads assaulting this tiny island, Corto Maltese, which is a fictional island nation off of the coast of South America, which does not exist.
Kind of a cliche government of like Latin American generals, like two. They don't really make it. There's probably some weird politics surrounding that, but that's not the focus of what we're going to talk about at all. So, but
Right.
yes, yeah. So
there's basically an A team and a B team.
Right.
The B team is the one that we start off looking at as the movie unfolds. This is the one with Pete Davidson, who plays Blackguard. This is what the Weasel is, where Boomer, where TDK, Harley Quinn, and Rick Flag, and another woman who looks like she's made out of rocks. But the point is that these particular villains, with the exception of Rick Flag, who is not a villain, he works with the government as kind of like a squad leader.
Okay.
And Harley Quinn, whose superpower is that she is insane. There's really nothing else. I mean, she can fly at certain points. She jumps like a cat, which makes no sense.
I'd say her superpower is that she takes initiative and is a go-getter.
Right, but there really wasn't anybody inside that initial B squad that was, going to win the day for them. And to make matters worse, Blackguard, Pete Davidson, actually rushes out at the very beginning and says, "Hey guys, I'm the guy who called you ahead of time and told you we were coming. So now, save me." And And but which made no sense whatsoever.
You
because
mean
how did the guy who was in prison contact Corto Maltese insurgents on this island to
Right.
let them know that they were coming? That makes no sense whatsoever.
He was double-crossing his own team, is what yeah.
Right, but the logistics of it are just unexplainable. It's like, how would he have been able to do that? I don't quite understand that.
Sure.
But anyway, because of that, that's the reason why the big firefight came, because they knew they were coming and they were waiting for them because of Pete Davidson's deception.
Right. Okay.
So he gets killed anyway. They start, the guy, Javelin dies, Weasel drowns, allegedly drowns as he jumps out of the helicopter.
Okay, so Weasel, let's talk about Weasel. I thought Weasel was hilarious. You don't know what the power is going to be. They keep saying he's killed 27 people or something, right? Children. So maybe Weasel has some discernment issues, problems making decisions, and understanding that it maybe shouldn't murder children. Kill adults and teens who look like adults, okay? Those are the only acceptable groups.
In the DC universe, Weasel is actually a dude. He just dresses like a weasel. In this one, he literally is a weasel.
Wait, he's a guy who puts on a weasel costume in the universe in DC?
Yeah, from what I understand, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't actually a weasel.
Okay. All right. Well, this seems to be a real weasel. The CGI technology has gotten pretty good these days, and I was persuaded. They did some good comedy, some good character. I just for this kind of movie, I found the writing to be very tight in a good way. Like, I guess that's always a good thing. You want good, tight writing. But like the banter, it wasn't just pablum. It was character establishing. I don't have great examples off the top of my head, but I just remember not being lost in the banter or in the plot so much, even though it's the beginning of the movie and you're still in the mystery phase. The part of the movie where you whisper questions to your friends. You go, why are they putting that in the trunk? What's in that bag? That kind of thing. And over the course of the movie, those questions become answered. So I'm even with the inherent unknowns of the first start of a movie, I was still like following along, and I was like really early on thinking, all right, I'm following this. I'm digging this. So you're wondering what the weasel's going to be like, and they airdrop them just off the coast of this island into the water, and the weasel immediately starts drowning. And they're like, we didn't check to see if the weasel could swim. And that was funny. That was a good bit. A rodent drowning in salt water, never not hilarious. It's in the rules of comedy. So what the hell am I getting at? Oh, I would just appreciated that. They also used that moment to show our what I thought. Well, I mean, I wasn't totally sure, but like what they kind of make seem Robert Rooker or whatever his name is. What's his name?
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker. He actually goes to rescue Weasel, showing that even though he's like a hardened, evil, mean prisoner guy, but he's looking out for his team. And like his whole thing is like he never turns back. He's so brave or something.
Well, I mean, you also want to get out of there alive, and you need every last person on your team to
Good
get
point.
your chances of success up.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to know whether it was an altruistic thing on his part or if it was just pure strategy.
But true, but nobody else was reacting. He went down and swam down and rescued the weasel from a watery grave. Unfortunately, though, it was dead. It did drown.
He didn't murder a bird in the opening scene, though, so he's not all that kind to animals.
That's right. He kills a bird with a ball. I thought there was a few too many bounces before the ball hit the bird, to be honest. And I don't even think that you could really break a bird. In order to get blood to come out, you got to hit it with something very. If it's going to be a blunt impact, like a ball, the speed has to be very high for it to rip through skin or to open skin. If you're going to open a bird, you use a knife or something sharp. So I'm just saying, like the physics of a ball hitting a bird. You could kill a bird, you could knock it out, you could knock it over, but blood, I don't think so. Only
literally unwatchable.
Randy Johnson with the bird that flew into his fastball, famous clip. Literally unwatchable. Okay, so we're still in the opening sequence of this though. So they all end up getting killed. Or did I interrupt a thought you were on, James?
Well, it's unclear as to whether Amanda Waller had a plan in mind where she was sending the weaker team on a frontal assault as a distraction while the more potent team that we're introduced to later comes in through the rear.
Mm-hmm.
So what basically happens is the initial team that we're introduced to completely gets wiped out with the exception of Harley Quinn and Rick Flag. Harley is captured by the new regime that has taken over this island, and we probably should kind of step back and say that the island was run by sort of like a dictatorship, but it was a dictatorship that didn't have hostility towards the U.S.
Mhm.
So they committed atrocities. They were terrible people, but it really international relations.
Yeah.
No reason for them to go after them,
America
for the
loves
US to go after them.
America loves dictators that it's trading with and making money from. Yeah, we're a big
Right.
dictator country if they're on our team. And as
Right.
soon
And
as someone comes up that says we're not going to play by America's bullshit, then America will impose violence on them.
Right.
That's
Then
all. That's like historic. That's all.
Yeah.
That's happened
And-
dozens of times in this world.
Yeah.
So it's
Then even more violent. Family comes in, takes over, hangs the entire family that
Yeah.
preceded them, takes over power, and that is when the U.S. has to jump into action. Because what we eventually find out is the reason for this mission is there is a large stone tower on this island called Jotunheim, which is the Norse world for where the giants came from. If you ever
Okay.
played God of War or read Norse mythology, that is the same name.
we all know Jotunheim.
And at this point, we don't quite know what's going on inside Jotunheim, but later on we find out that there is a specimen that was recovered from space that is inside this facility inside Jotunheim that was being experimented on and it was called Project Starfish. And
Right.
at this point, we don't really know why that is, but even, if you watch the trailer for this thing, you see it. It's, it's Starro. It's the villain from the DC universe, kind of the tongue-in-cheek comic book one. It's a giant starfish.
It's a huge space starfish. See, like I didn't see the trailer, and I'm really glad I didn't know that the villain was going to be the starfish thing. I think I would have, that we might have soured, not ruined, but I would have been like, oh, really a dumb starfish.
I would
But
say most people who go into the movie know that from the beginning, though, because
Yeah,
they
probably.
just throw it out there in advertising and promotional materials. It's hard to avoid.
indeed, and I would have watched it had I seen the trailer because I didn't care that much about the stuff. Like I like to, yeah, it's fine. But I'm just saying, like not knowing the starfish was the bad guy. I thought they actually did a pretty good job with the starfish overall. To jump ahead a little bit, it's such a clownish, goofy character. And you could totally see a bad action movie with like adequate CGI, because that usually describes most action movies, with like totally flubbing a weird starfish monster. But they did a good job with it, I thought.
Yeah.
The way
So-
the way it integrates into the motivations of the rest of the actors in the movie. The characters who make decisions. That's what I mean by actors. So go ahead.
So we know that the B Squad gets wiped out with the exception of those two characters. Harley is taken captive by the new monarchy dictator that has taken over the island,
Mhm.
whereas Rick Flag finds himself in the company of slightly different group of people
Like-
upon the island, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Oh,
But we
okay.
should probably talk about the A-Team. They're not called the A-Team in the movie, but just for the sake of explanation, as the B-Team is the one that gets wiped out, and the
Right.
other team that kind of boards on with our main cast. Who is in our main cast? What are the characters, and what are their powers, and what do we know about them?
Okay, here we go. One of them is Idris Elba, and his main power is he's hot, and he is a very handsome, good-looking man with a British accent. He turns everything in his hand becomes a deadly weapon. Okay, so watch out while that guy's at Subway picking up a 6-footer. Okay, when he's carrying that thing out, if you bump into it, you die. All right.
And
so
what is his villain name?
James Bond.
Bloodsport.
Yeah, Bloodsport. Okay, and then there's another guy named John Cena who is a professional wrestler.
Right. Before we get there, why
Oh.
is Bloodsport on the island? How did he get roped into this? Because he's a very reluctant guy. He's basically the leader of this team because you had Rick Flag as the leader of the other team.
Right.
He was brought on as the tactical leader for this team. What was Waller able to do to convince him to go on the mission?
Blow up his brain.
Well, that is a very persuasive thing to do. But before he even agreed to have the bomb put in the back of his head, he was completely opposed to the whole idea. But then his daughter, who he has a kind of a tenuous relationship with, got into some legal trouble, and she threatened him by saying that, you know what, if you don't do this, your daughter's going to go to jail, and not just any jail, she's going to come to our facility, and you know our facility has quite a high death rate inside of it. So she was basically threatening the life of his teenage daughter if he did not do this mission.
Well, murder your
Amanda
daughter.
Waller
Yeah.
is not a good person.
The old murdering the daughter move to get somebody to go to work. Yes, now I remember the phone call, the scene with him and his daughter. See, like even that, like kind of is a good example of how this movie, like, takes what I would normally any scene in a movie where there's a guy in prison or a woman. It's usually a guy. They're in prison, and then the kid or the spouse, the family member, somebody close comes, and they have to sit on different sides of the glass and talk. Usually, when that kind of scene, that's a pretty common scene. I just sort of assume it's going to suck. It's going to be kind of boring. They're going to touch hands on the glass, or they're going to do some weird bullshit. Maybe they'll, cry about something. And so this starts, and it's Idris Elba and his daughter, and I'm like, here we go, one of these prison glass scenes on the phone, and they end up like screaming and yelling at each other. It actually like escalated in a way that was pretty entertaining and revealing about their character. So yes, I do recall appreciating the choice to do that in that scene. So anyway, you're right. So he's like the leader of the A team, right?
Yes.
Fair? Okay.
He is the squad leader.
Any more? Sorry. In this game, in Valheim here, I'm going to keep trying to like change the camera to me when I'm talking and change to you when you're talking, but I forget to do that. So, did you have anything else you were going to add about him as far as the A team goes? I interrupted it.
No, not really. It's just that that his whole backstory, the reason that he was in jail, is that he apparently shot Superman with a kryptonite-infused bullet and put him in the ICU for a while, which you never really get to see happen, but it kind of establishes that he's a serious known threat within the DC universe, so much so that he could take down Superman.
Pretty smart move, using a kryptonite bullet. They keep those by the silver bullets.
Yeah, and I know that there was an interview with Idris Elba who basically said that he'd be very excited to reprise the role to see like a prequel to show how that went down. He would be completely up for it, and I'd be down to watch it too.
That'd be good. Yeah, Idris Elba shooting the guy who plays Superman, Henry, right? Henry Cavill, The Witcher. Yeah. See, I know all this shit. Okay, and then there's John Cena, the wrestler, who has a weird helmet for some reason, and he has the same
Beacon of Justice.
The Beacon of Justice. His superpower is patriotism, it seems, right, or something like he's like
or liberty. I think he says all the time.
Yeah, he's real big on like killing everybody to protect America. In fact, there's even a joke that I wrote a note about, James, that you had said. He said he's for peace at any cost. He'll kill any man, woman, and child to have peace at any cost.
Yeah, he says that in the show, in the movie.
Yeah, which kind of encapsulates the way America runs its foreign policy.
No, and I wouldn't necessarily say that he is, a patriotic American. It's more so liberty and justice that he's going after, not necessarily nationalism.
Oh, I thought it was all about. I mean, I agree. Oh, yeah, but he's not a mercenary for other countries' nationalism. His nationalism is for America, isn't it?
Well, he just so happens to live in America, and we'll get to this a little bit at the very end. But there's a twist with that particular character where he makes a decision that's kind of counterintuitive to what we think he stands for, but he justifies it by saying that by protecting the interests of America, he's avoiding a larger conflict, which would bring about war and conflict. So it's not that he's trying to protect America; it's that he's trying to avoid conflict.
If we can agree with that reasoning is sound. It could be. Some people will say stuff like that, but they're just deluding themselves to justify heinous behavior.
Yeah, and the backstory of this particular character, I didn't know this. I had to look it up like last week or so. But apparently in the comic books, his father or his grandfather was a Nazi in a concentration camp, kind of doing horrific things as Nazis are known to do.
Sure.
And as, he kind of takes on this persona out of a profound sense of shame for his own lineage.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, a lot of Americans did a lot of work with the Nazis during that time, too. A lot of companies. Okay. Anyway, he and Idris Elba though are kind of like rivals. They don't really like each other when they get to. They're not friends going in, but they both sort of have a similar superpower, right? Where they're basically like they can use guns to kill anybody. In fact, there's a sequence sort of showing all that off early on.
Yeah, when Waller introduces both of the characters, she uses almost exactly, probably exactly the same tagline. It goes, he was raised from a child to kill. Anything in his hands becomes a lethal weapon.
Yeah.
So they're basically the same thing, and they kind of argue in the very beginning, saying, well, what's the difference between us? We have basically the same thing.
Right. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers. when they grasp arms in Predator, right? You know what I'm talking about there, James?
Oh, yeah.
Big muscles. It's a meme.
Famous meme.
It's a famous meme now. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so we've talked about Idris Elba. We talked about John Cena's character. Who else do we have?
Well, they have. There's a guy who he's a polka dot man.
Yep.
Interesting character. You kind of wonder. He's a bit of an odd guy. He clearly has some social. He doesn't fit into the established norms of social behavior. He seems like he's probably got some troubled past in his background. You don't know. I mean, it's hard to say what any creepy weird guy it might have in their background. And when I'm in public, I often feel people probably can tell I have a creepy weird background. I don't know if that's. I don't even think I do. I just But they don't explain why this polka dot guy is on the A team. He's got like a mechanic's onesie that has like colored dots, which is what polka dots are.
It looks like he's wearing a twister mat.
Yeah, like a twister man. Funny. Yeah, and they even say like, "What do? Do you shoot polka dots at people or something like that?" They're kind of making fun of him. And he's like, "Yeah, or yeah." So
like,
the way
he doesn't acknowledge it, but eventually we find out, yeah, that is what he does.
Yeah, right. Yeah, before we even see his power, though, they sort of show him having like medical problems related to polka dot infection or something. Like he'll get like his face starts to bulge out with balls of blue and yellow and orange.
Right. We've even seen a scene where he gets up in the middle of the night and he's like severely disfigured because of this. He goes off into the woods and we see him expelling these brightly colored polka dots, but you can't really see through the bushes, but you can tell that that's what's happening. Then he emerges normal again.
He staggers off and he barfs, but like Idris one of the other characters watches him do it because they like wake up while he's like kind of struggling to get out of bed because it's. So sorry, did you just say that he does it twice a day? Did I?
No, but you're right. He does. He has to expunge or expel them twice a day.
Yeah.
And he explains exactly what happened to him and what his backstory is.
We could share. Yeah. So his mother, right? His mother was like a top researcher, right? And she injected him with the virus, it turns out. So he has mother issues. One reason I relate to him so much.
Interdimensional virus.
Okay, interdimensional virus. I thought that his character was like low-key one of the better characters. I was sort of skeptical when they first introduced him, but the way they play up the mother prank, the mother gag, was really good. And it escalates in a really entertaining way. Let's just jump it. We're not going to hit all the plot points. I'll forget. But like, there's a scene where they're in a bar, and does he get drunk? Yeah, he's new to drinking. Like, they're not going to drink. They're like, all right, we got to drink. We're all going to have drinks. So they have some bonding moments. He gets drunk. They start to have some fun drunk moments. They laugh a little bit. Then he's dancing. You know, I was actually thinking that bar scene was going to be lame. I also completely made incorrect assumptions when I first saw it. I really love the way they did the dancing with him, because he starts dancing with girls. This guy's awkward and weird, and he clearly has no way of, you know, they told him like he can kill people if he thinks of them as his mother, so he hates. So, but then they show him dancing, and he's dancing with women. It's kind of like a bar with music playing, and then they cut to him dancing, and all the women around him are his mother. But they're shaped like the different ladies, and they're like tall, short, different clothes and stuff. And he's in this like sea of his own mom, and it's really weird. It's really freaky. I appreciated that they let us experience his torment in a way, even though he got drunk at that night, so he actually was having fun. It is very weird, very good though. One time I was at a bachelor party thingy. I don't remember. It was with a bunch of friends, and it was one of my friends, like they owned like a small rental cabin, so we had this place for a couple days. I got so fucking drunk. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was upstairs, and I went and I took a huge piss. I was staggering around. I didn't know where the bathroom was, because I was afraid of going down the stairs, because it was like one of those spiral staircases. This is a great story, by the way. Nothing to do with the movie. And I finally find the toilet, and I just let it rip, and it was so hell, man. It was like the biggest piss I'd ever had. And then I went back to sleep, and I woke up the next day, and my legs were all wet, and I realized I had not found the toilet. I had just peed on the bed. I thought the corner of the bed was the toilet. So I pretended to do laundry and made up a joke. I made up a lie that I brought a beer up into my bed, and I had spilled it. And then I washed the sheets. And I flipped over.
Happened.
Yeah, it is kind of, beer is just pee before it gets warmed up by your body.
Exactly.
And so I flipped over the mattress, and man, I peed every 2 gallons of piss went into that mattress, man. There was no way. I remember being so happy I found the toilet too, because I was terrified of peeing on the bed. I didn't want to make a mess. Well, yeah, that was about 20 years ago.
Could have been a lot worse. Could have been number 2.
Number 2. Here's the toilet. But what him puking in the middle of the night reminded me of me peeing all over that bed. So
yeah, and he does have a kind of a tragic backstory where they ask him, what his mother did, and apparently she was obsessed with creating superheroes in her own children. We don't know how many siblings he had, but he does say that some of them died, some of them didn't, some of them survived, but of course he survived, but he's living a pretty miserable existence. And it seems like for some reason, mentally he's stuck in the 70s. He dresses in 70s attire,
Right.
he dances in the 70s styles, so
Yeah.
doesn't really explain that, but that's kind of who he is.
Well, they sort of know that we're just gonna assume he's just a troubled dude. The world's filled with troubled men. We're all like, no one's surprised that there's some troubled guy who had a weird childhood that he's fucked up by. There doesn't seem to be any interest in abating the rate of troubled men production in our world, or troubled children who have to overcome their fucked up childhoods. We're not really slowing down the rate for that. But I really like that, even though they're like, okay, this is the goofy, weird polka dot guy with the mother issues. But as they then reveal that his story connects to all the other superheroes, or at least these in the movie or whatever, because his mother was a top researcher, or one of the initial researchers, and that she injected her own kid with this thing. So his backstory becomes much more relevant. It actually sort of taps into the lore of the whole world in a way. So yeah, it's an interesting character, I thought. Anything else you want to add about the Polka Dot Man?
Apparently, they changed him significantly from his comic book origins, but apparently he was a very minor, lesser-known Batman villain.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. So so the polka dot guy, and then there is the I don't know the young woman who has the phone to call the rats. She has a machine.
The rat catcher too. Yeah.
What, she has a device for it, right? Like a wand or something?
Like a wand that we find out later that her father developed and created before he died of what appeared to be a heroin overdose, I think.
And her dad was Crispin Glover.
Okay.
Do you not get the rat? Willard? Come on. Willard? Willard. It's a movie about a guy named Willard who is in charge of rats.
Oh, never seen
Starring Crispin Glover, TV's best actor. Michael J. Fox's dad.
Oh.
And he bangs Michael J.
That I get.
Yeah.
Now, her actual father, the guy who played her father, who was he?
Her dad was one of the... I don't know.
Oh, the actor who played him.
I don't neither.
Okay, I can't say his name. I suck. I should have looked it up, but Taika Waititi. I can't say it, but he's the director of Thor Ragnarok. He's an absolutely hilarious guy. He's a genius when it comes to comedy and directing and storytelling. I love the guy like crazy. I just suck at pronouncing names.
No one's upset about that.
I'm upset about it.
You motherfucker.
Yeah.
So, okay. But what's her dad in the movie, though?
He is her dad.
No, I know, but you said he's a character. Is he like a scientist? Like, what is his deal in the movie? Is he just her dad, or does he have some role?
He's just her dad. He was Ratcatcher 1. He was the one who created the technology and then taught her how to use it. And then he had, also had a drug addiction. We see him dying when she's a child. He's got the needle in his arm. He had, his heroin or whatever drug it was. I don't quite know. and she came to America when he died because she was very emotionally attached to him, and brought his technology with her. And the only thing we really find out is that she was in a bank, and I don't know if she was trying to rob the bank or not, but she did say that the police considered her rats to be a weapon. Now, if you go into a bank and you summon 1,000,000 rats with you, then of course the police are going to get involved. So I can't imagine any reason why she would do that if she was not trying to rob it. And it's established that these are villains, so even though she seems to be a very pleasant person, she did apparently break the law.
Ah, she violated the law. Banks require less than 1,000,000 rats. That's their rules.
Yes.
You know, no shoes, no shirt, too many rats, no service. God, I keep forgetting to change my camera on the guy in the game. All right, yeah. See, I vaguely remember her backstory. It's been 2 weeks since I've seen this movie, and I went and got myself a fucking job now, so I've had to work during the day, which is affecting my memory. I'm making excuses. No. I'm actually really happy with my job. I just want to do a quick aside. My hands are dirty because I'm doing woodworking full time now. I have woodworking hands, and so I always have walnut tannins and glue and fucking yeah. I'm just so So I actually go out into the world now, and I have to like give. Wait, there's a man attacking our stuff. I have to go. I'll take care of it, James. No worries.
Okay.
I go out into the world and I have dirty hands, and I feel like just a gross guy, you know, handing stuff to cashiers and shit. So okay, so what's her? Sorry, I'm a little distracted here. Oh my god. Well, let's just leave him alone. There's the rat girl. Who else is there? Go ahead, James. We got to get this moving a little bit.
King Shark, who Otway,
yeah.
I think is
The shark.
the name. Yeah, who was voiced by Sylvester Stallone.
What? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I thought it was the other Sylvester Stallone, Vin Diesel.
No,
Oh,
that is
Groot. Oh, Groot. Oh, really? Okay, voiced by. Like, that guy needed the fucking work. Give me a break.
He does a good job, though. I mean, I'm not a fan of Stallone personally, but I think he did an adequate job in this.
Yeah. He did a fine job as that role. It doesn't change my opinion of the character or anything. No, I know. When you're at that level, it's just like it doesn't. There's a whole different world when you're a Stallone type. You know, just think of the. Yeah. Okay. So King Shark, his superpower is it's a shark who wears pants, Daisy Dukes,
Yes,
or
he is a
jean
descendant
shorts.
of a shark god.
Oh, is that what it is? Not some.
And he has kind of a plot hole as well, where it's his power is that he's this massive physical threat whose skin is impenetrable. But if his skin is impenetrable, how did they get the bomb into the back of his neck? I don't know. Nobody knows. And if you were to ask James Gunn that, he'd probably say, "It doesn't matter. Have fun."
Does he have other holes?
Does he what?
Does he have other holes in his body, like mouths and nose? Maybe
Well,
they put it in there through his face. They didn't have to necessarily go through the skin.
Well, they don't really show it.
Yeah, they don't show it. Yeah, but I get what you're saying, though. How could you penetrate the skin? Perhaps there was a technology with nanobots that was able to get through the skin, or something like that.
Or perhaps he's just so dull-witted, which we know he is, that they could just simply tell him there's a bomb in there, and he would probably go along with it.
Yes, very dull-witted animal thing. All right, so yeah, the shark isn't even like trying to go along. It just knows it. Like it tries to kill his friends, and they're like worried about like that's a part of the earlier interactions with the shark is the squad is sort of troubled by him.
Right. The whole arc of King Shark is that he doesn't have any connections. He has no friends. He has nothing. He's been alone in the world as far as he, has existed.
Yeah.
And he's learning to get along with people, to trust people, to see people as friends and not food, to use like a Finding Nemo reference. But, he's probably one of the more interesting characters in the terms of character development over time. So it is kind of funny that a character that rudimentary would be that interesting, but to me he was.
Yeah, I agree.
So really, to kind of jumpstart into the plot of this thing, we have our characters. They're on the island, Corto Maltese. They're going after Jotunheim, but they can't get into Jotunheim unless they find a way to get past the guards into the front gates.
Right.
And the first way they do this is that they want to go after a character played by Peter Capaldi named the Thinker. And this is a guy with like looks like what would you call those, fuses or something attached all over his head.
Nodes or fuses. Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of like if
something like that.
Hellraiser and had a baby with an electrical box.
Yeah, like an over the top, like sort of like Megamind scientist villain. It looks ridiculous, but it fits in this kind of movie.
Wait, James, hold on. I just did an A-OK to the camera, and I just realized that white supremacy thing is like fucked up that hand sign. I was trying to.
That's just because a bunch of idiots use it doesn't.
I know.
mean that it's legitimate
I know,
hand
but
sign.
I wasn't. I needed to. Yeah, they ruined it. No wonder the scuba diving community is so mad about that loss of that
Yes.
symbol.
And this is what happens if you let terrible, horrible, idiotic people take certain things from culture and appropriate it for themselves, then they win. So F them, screw them, who cares?
I know.
Go away, white supremacists.
They're it's fuck them. Yeah, I know. It just this world is just nuts. So okay,
just-
sorry, I interrupted, but I had to.
Um,
Because then I did a
So,
fist and it looked like I was doing a jerk off motion. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so they need to get outside Jotunheim because they need to go in and destroy Project Starfish.
Mhm.
And in order to connect with this Peter Capaldi character, the only intel they have on him is that he frequents this nightclub. So that's what leads them towards that nightclub that you mentioned before. And I guess meanwhile, while they're pursuing this kind of a, pursue a pursuit, that's bad vocabulary.
It's okay.
But meanwhile, Harley Quinn is being taken to be a bride to the young head of the family that took over Corto Maltese, the dictator guy. And they have a brief fling, and he says, "I've been admiring you from afar." They give her a dress, so she feels all pretty and stuff. But it eventually ends up with her basically coming into her own and showing the audience that she is absolutely out of her mind insane when she shoots him in the chest and starts watching him crawl, bleeding and gurgling across the floor,
Mhm.
while she says things like, "Oh, I find you prettier this way." And she's absolutely diabolically insane.
And the Joker did it to her, right? She was the Joker's prison psychiatrist.
Oh yeah,
or something?
way back in her origin
Yeah.
story. Yeah, she was a psychiatrist for the Joker in Arkham Asylum, and he twisted her mind, turned her into that. But the Joker is nowhere to be found in this movie.
Classic love story. All right.
Right. So it also is worth mentioning that in the very opening sequence where she is going on with the B Squad on the island, Javelin dies pretty quickly, but in his last dying breaths, he bequeaths his javelin to her right before she gets captured by these militant forces. And there's this brief little comedic thing where he dies saying, "You must carry the javelin for," and she's like, "Whoa, he died.
Yeah.
Carry it for what? Carry it for what?"
Carry
That's
it
kind of
for
her character.
what? What did you want me to carry it for? Like
Yeah,
she's got that,
she's like
that
a cross
obnoxious
between-
voice.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like Janine from Ghostbusters meets a psychopathic killer.
Yeah, if Janine from Ghostbusters had a baby with the Jersey Shore.
Pretty much, yeah. So she kills him, then she's taken captive again. She was already kind of captive, but now she's hanging upside down. They're going to threaten to cut her fingers off and things. But of course, she does the cliche legs around the neck, snap the guard's neck, take the key with your toes, unlock your thing, fall down to the ground, and go on this explosive action scene where she's like shooting guys like crazy with marksman precision, then grabs her javelin off the wall and starts slicing and dicing people to death with flowers exploding behind her and the music swelling. It was her kind of moment to shine in the whole movie. It was a great sequence, but
Good
it
sequence.
kind of showed that she was very capable at protecting herself. She didn't need rescuing.
And that the training of that group of bad guys needed to be a little better, since they were like all bundled up in the hallway and not a single one fired their weapon while she's just blasting away at all of them. Like there were some moments that were just like, but that's true for pretty much every action movie. You know, like bad guys that like take a little more initiative and you probably wouldn't get blown up. But
It also bears mentioning that they had someone that they hired on the island to kind of get them through checkpoints around these militant groups. And it was just a normal, everyday, nice guy named Milton, which,
Oh yeah, they
he
befriended
becomes like an unofficial member of the squad.
Yeah, Milton. Yeah, like that was well done. Yeah, like he's kind of like he was a bus driver or something or whatever. He was a local though. He was just like a dude that got roped into their crew because he or he's a cab driver or a local guy. But yeah, Milton becomes a character. Like that was also well done.
It's kind of funny too because the whole thing about Milton is that they they end up invading Jotunheim, and Milton does get killed. And at the time, nobody seems to remember, aside from Polka Dot Guy, who really felt a connection with Milton. We don't really know
Yeah.
the depth to which that connection existed, but he felt bad for him. And Harley Quinn was like, Milton, I think I'd know if we were traveling with someone named Milton.
Yeah.
And she really doesn't get it. She's oblivious. But if you do go back and rewatch the scenes where they're coming into Jotunheim and they're kind of walking in slow motion through the fog and through the rain, Milton is walking on the far side of them as though he's one of them. It's pretty hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the kind of movie that a second watch through would give you a lot of clues and a lot of like little like extra Easter eggs you might have missed and stuff, if that's even the right word. Yeah, the Milton thing is fun. And then at the very end, she even like calls like Idris Elba Milton or somebody else Milton who's like real close to them.
Yeah, she sees the actual Milton dead on the ground. She goes, "Oh, Milton, that's Milton." And so she recognizes who he is, but by the time the end of the movie comes around, you're right, she completely forgets that and thinks Idris Elba was Milton.
I like that though. I like that. Yeah, because some people can be that scatterbrained. There's no end to the innovation possible when it comes to the brain messing up.
Right.
So go ahead.
Oh, so to fast forward through the rest of the movie, basically what happens is they get into Jotunheim, and their idea is to use explosives to blow up the whole tower to complete their mission so they can get 10 years off their sentence and go home alive.
Can I stop there real quick, though? A couple sequences before they get to that I thought I was going to mention. Like the Rebel group where John Cena and Idris Elba kill almost everybody.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting... We mentioned that they're sort of the same superpower. So there's the way that they showcase both of their powers as they like walk through this camp of rebels. And they kill everybody in very like nonchalant ways. Like there's one where John Cena is walking by a person who's laying on a gurney, like they're injured, and he just like stabs them a bunch of times without slowing down. Silly, kind of goofy, not pranky, but like gaggy, done for laughs sort of kills. But just to illustrate that they're both just like murderers they can kill anybody with anything, and particularly with weapons and guns. But the reason I wanted to backtrack to that though, James, is that they meet another critical character, the leader of the rebels, who is like, why didn't any of my men warn me? And because they killed all of her men while they were walking. But she's like she's like a member of that family that got killed, of the royal family or something. She's related to the previous ruling party or something, right? And then but she helps them get to where they need to go before they get to the point where they're going to blow up the Jotunheim, right?
I don't know if she helps them get there, but she's kind of there to represent, like you said, the power that was in charge, a freedom fighter against this new regime. And she kind of befriends Joel Kinnaman's character, Rick Flag, by him helping her understand that when they assault Jotunheim, that's going to pull away forces from the palace, and they can go there and take power back, essentially.
Right. Yeah, totally. Okay, so now they're at the point where they're going to blow up Jotun. Is that where I cut you off there?
Oh, yeah. So they're basically in the tower. They fight their way in. Milton takes the car with Peter Capaldi driving into the facility. And as soon as they get to the facility, they understand that Starro, and they do show this beforehand in like historical footage showing Starro floating in space. And what it turns out to be is that the Americans found Starro in space, brought Starro back to Earth to experiment on, but didn't want the stigma of that being on American soil. They didn't want to tarnish their national what do you want to say? There's a word. I can't think of it right now, but their reputation, so to speak.
Okay. So
they construct this Jotunheim on this small island nation off of South America, Corto Maltese, and they work with the then regime to say, we're going to conduct experiments on this island, but we're going to put it in your jurisdiction, so if anything should happen, it won't be traced back to us.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah. So the Jotunheim is like a American experiment, but they're the government that they're friendly with, they're letting them do this experimentation there because it produces like babies or small starfish. And so for people who haven't seen it, I'm going to put the trailer in the beginning so probably people will have seen it, but it has a giant eyeball in the middle, and these things are basically head crabs, like the babies, so that they fall or they fly. They don't really fly, they just kind of land on people.
Glide. Yeah.
Oh, they glide. Yeah, they glide around. They get on your face, and then your face becomes the starfish eyeball because it's like a head crab from Half-Life, and or classic and a lot of face grabbing in science fiction and horror and whatever. And then they become kind of like a zombie, but they become an extension of the starfish, which I thought was interesting. Like they're not necessarily its offspring. They're it. They are it.
Yes,
but just like
they're all part of the singularity.
Distributed computing kind of a distributed network of the same consciousness.
Right, and it can speak through them
Yeah.
as well, through the people who. And another thing that they are very careful to clarify is that once the starfish is on your face, there is no rescuing you. There is no saving you. The moment it attaches to you, you are a corpse. You are dead.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like when you kill a zombie, it's already dead. Don't feel bad about it. It shouldn't.
Right.
Okay. So I interrupted wherever you were with that. Go ahead.
So they were
I don't-
going. Okay, so as soon as they get to Jotunheim, they see the experiments that the Thinker was conducting. They see cages with dozens and dozens and dozens of people with starfish on their face, and the starfish Starro actually starts speaking to them through these people, saying, "Are you here to save me? Are you here to end my torture?"
Yeah.
Because we find out that this Peter Capaldi's character he's really the real villain. He's been torturing this creature for 30 years in this facility and doing unspeakable, experimentations, which kind of casts him in a much more villainous light.
Yeah. It's like a captive animal that is being brutalized and tortured, and it's capable of tremendous violence, but it's actually kind of an innocent victim in the whole story too.
And by this time, when they first find it, it's the size of like a small dog, and now it has grown to be like as the movie describes it when it eventually escapes, is a kaiju, which is a reference to Pacific Rim. It's a giant Godzilla-sized creature.
Right.
So what basically happens is they go through and they start planning explosives to bring down the entire facility. But as they're planning the explosives, they have an encounter with the new regime troops, and a firefight ensues where Milton is shot, and because of his connection with Milton, Polka Dot Man kind of loses his cool a little bit and fires polka dots and disintegrates the two guys that killed Milton. But in doing so, the polka dots ignite the C4 or the explosive that Milton dropped and sets off the explosives early, which creates this huge explosion. The tower fractures. They're all kind of scrambling to not be crushed by falling debris and to not fall with the tower.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically releases Starro.
Yes, and is that the sequence where Idris Elba is atop the thing and he crashes through each? He's like on a.
Well, that comes.
Or am I jumping ahead?
That comes right around the same time, but there is an important event that happens before that.
Yeah.
Which is the truth about America being behind the whole Starro experiment is revealed, and Rick Flag is furious about this because he's a government guy. And he runs over, grabs the hard drive out of a machine. He's like, oh, so he knew exactly where to find the hard drive. That's a little far-fetched, but anyway, he grabs it, and he says, I'm going to take this to the press. I'm going to blow the lid off this thing and let everyone know who the real villain is here, which is the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And then Peacemaker
Right, so that guy...
up.
James, I think... Can I hear you?
Huh?
Wait a minute. Oh, okay, sorry, my audio went out. Yeah, so that sets up a conflict between him and John Cena, right?
Yeah, Peacemaker.
So I think when we were talking earlier, I think I had Rick Flag and the Peacemaker a little confused. So if I made it seem like I was assigning the wrong traits to one of them, it might have been a little confusing. But anyway, so these two guys, one guy says, I want to let the American people know what what their government's doing, and the other guy says, we have to make sure they don't find out. And then so now we have a battle between these two dudes, and it doesn't go well for either of them, really, right? Like, how does that all play out?
Because Peacemaker was charged by Amanda Waller prior to entering in this mission. He had a secondary mission that was assigned to him, and that was to destroy all evidence of the project and to not let any data, hard drives, or anything get out that could cause an international conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So he was under orders to kill anyone who was acting in opposition to that directive, and in that case, it caused Rick Flag and John Cena's character Peacemaker to get into a fight, which inevitably led to the death of Rick Flag.
Right. I wish I should have watched it again, or we should record these like the day after we watch it. or something. But he ends up getting, so he seems to win, and he's going to have the hard drive. But then he loses the hard drive eventually, though, right? They get him.
Who is he?
The Peacemaker.
Oh yeah.
How does he get? Someone finally gets it from him, though. I don't recall how the hard drive.
So basically what happens is they're in a scuffle, the hard drive gets flung across the floor, and then John Cena's character is about to be defeated by Rick Flag, but then he fumbles around, picks up a shard of glass or, some sort of debris from the explosion, stabs it right through Rick Flag's heart. So Rick Flag goes over. John Cena doesn't seem to be thrilled with that. He did what he had to do, but it didn't seem to be his main desire.
Yeah.
But once that happened, he looks over and sees Ratcatcher 2 witness the whole event, and the hard drive is at her feet. She picks it up, and then he basically goes after her. He subdues her, and he's about to put a bullet through her head when all of a sudden, boom, 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 Idris Elba's character is falling floor by floor by floor by floor in this comedic sequence that never really would have happened.
Pancaking
but he happens to
layers.
land right there to witness the event.
And then he gets into a fight. And then this is the sequence where they previously had the kind of a joking conversation about how the Peacemaker has such an accurate shot. They're both such accurate gun shooters that he would shoot the bullet. He would shoot it more accurate. And he goes, "How would you shoot it more accurate if I hit the bullet? The what's the middle of it called? Fucking bullseye. The bullseye." He goes, "I'll shoot it into your bullet hole. A smaller bullet." And so you think that's like a throwaway conversation, but then you realize as they're fighting that conversation is going to lead to exactly how this battle's going to play out, where they're shooting or something. I don't remember, but I do like one bullet is bigger, and then Idris Elba has smaller bullets, and his bullet goes through the other bullet, so he actually is more precise or something. And he does shoot him through his muzzle, though. It goes into his gun, which I thought was interesting, although you think it would redirect it a little bit, right? I'm sure I got that wrong somehow, as most things I say.
Yeah, John Cena's thing, Peacemaker's thing, was that he uses smaller bullets, and he was bragging about that earlier in the movie, and then Idris Elba turns that idea on its head, and in this case, he uses the smaller bullets to defeat Peacemaker. And Peacemaker catches a bullet in the neck because of it and starts bleeding out.
Right. Okay. Good. I feel like we're missing some beats. I'm missing a lot here, I'm sure. Okay, so within this big building that starts crumbling because the C4 went off and everything is going to hell. Go ahead, James. You talk now.
Okay, so they're outside the building now, and Starro is wreaking havoc. He is taking over the island. He's killing everyone. He's knocking through buildings. He's doing terrible things.
Right. Starro is unleashed. That's right. And so but the government wants them to leave him alone. Like,
exactly.
Your mission's over. Come home.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, this regime is kind of a problem for us, so let's let Starro destroy all these people. Let's let it do what it's going to do. But even though they're villains, they can't sit back and watch this happen. So they kind of go against Amanda Waller's orders and start marching together in solidarity, knowing that all their heads are about to explode, but they're doing this because they know they need to do the right thing. They need to attack and bring this thing down.
Right.
And she being Amanda Waller, is about to flip the switch and blow everybody up. But right before she hits the button that's going to set everyone's head exploding, one of her own subordinates hits her in the back of the head, knocks her out, and says, okay, we're taking over. Amanda Waller has chosen a loose cannon. We can't have her calling the shots. So that basically saves the whole team, and they go into this big fight against Starro.
And there's a bit of like a crew at Mission Control behind Amanda Waller, that like Steve Agee, the comedian, is one of the guys, and a couple other people. Yeah. So that's like a C story sort of
His
thing.
reoccurring joke is always looking at Amanda Waller and saying, "You're not really going to kill his daughter, are you? You wouldn't really do that, would you? You're not really that bad, are you?" And she always looks over and goes, "You wouldn't believe the things that I would do." Yeah. So it's basically establishing that there's a moral disconnect between Amanda Waller and those who report to her, where they don't truly understand just how cutthroat she is.
Right. So they stop her from blowing up all their brains, and the heroes are heading not reluctant. I mean, they kind of all stagger, but like one makes a decision and the rest of them follow. And then now they're off to fight Starro, who is now rampaging throughout the town and walking right through buildings and stuff. great sequence, great moment where Polka Dot Guy activates his powers, shooting polka dots, glowing energy balls at its leg, or like takes off one of its legs real hard.
Yeah, that's right around the time that they defeat it. But
Right.
there's a couple things that happened before that.
Okay. All right.
What was it? It was
Jack.
oh shoot, what was it?
Just
Well, when the starfish, when Star Wars starts sending its little
the land.
tiny
Yeah.
drones out, they start attaching to the faces of everyone. So pretty much the whole militant army gets, a bunch of civilians and things. But Ratcatcher, I believe, is the one who puts her gas mask down, and it can't attach to her gas mask. So she yells out to everybody else, "Yo, don't cover your face! Don't let it on your face!"
Yeah.
So none of the main heroes get attached with a starfish, but it's
Yeah.
a little bit silly though because they block it. Of course, it can't attach to the shark. The shark doesn't have the anatomical structure
Yeah.
for it to wrap around to really affect him. So he's just kind of swatting away like they're flies. Bugging
Yeah,
him,
it's
which is kind of funny.
like he's getting attacked by like oven mitts. Like what was the oven mitt that would sell spaghetti?
That's the hamburger helper.
The hamburger helper, this beef stroganoff or whatever. Essentially, as if the hamburger helper guy was just like a whole bunch of them were like sort of sloppily trying to attach to his face. The way the shark just didn't have any idea, was just like being like they're just kind of like completely harmless as like a wet rag. Yeah, that was a funny sequence. I like that. So okay, yeah, go ahead.
Another big plot hole is that you see a giant starfish. Obviously, what's its big weakness is the giant eye in the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, Idris Elba's character, who is this remarkable marksman who never misses, brings out his nanotech gun and assembles it on screen, and it's spinning around. It's really impressive. But he's shooting it in his legs and
Right.
in his arms. He never shoots for the eye, which is a little bit silly. But you kind of understand that he has to do that because if he hits it in the eye, he's going to win automatically, and you're going to lose out on the big ending set piece, which is Harley realizing, oh, I finally know the reason I have the javelin, which she uses by running off the top of a building and using it to penetrate the starfish's eye and effectively goes inside the starfish.
Now she's swimming inside of its aqueous humor,
Yes.
and it's
right.
Go ahead.
And then you can pick up with what Polka Dot Man did and what Ratcatcher 2 did.
Well, okay. I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong, but Polka Dot, though, after he launches a pretty successful hit, I mean, he doesn't kill it, but he does a lot of damage to its leg. Like, he shoots off one of its feet, basically.
Well, his mother's leg.
Well, that's what, like, but as he looks up, he sees his, they do a whole gag. I explained the one where he's dancing with all these women, and then it shows that all the women are his mother. Now we have the starfish, and it's his mother. So now the same actress or actor who plays his mom, an older woman, she is now like rampaging through the buildings, and like she's a giant monster. You kind of saw that come in though, but it was very well done. It was, I'm sure that was like a great. This would have been a good movie to see in a theater. Like I normally despise crowded theaters. These days, I don't know if I would even want to go into an empty theater. Although I would do an empty one, but even I wouldn't want like just COVID, fucking nightmares. But this would have been like a good, fun group movie if you had a good theater crowd that wasn't full of dummies, which is high probability. Because I think like that moment probably really would have hit nicely for a nice audience, where his mom is smashing the buildings up. But then he screams and he kind of turns because he's sort of like a weird guy. He's got confidence issues and stuff, and he screams, "I'm a motherfucking superhero!" Right? Isn't that what he says?
I don't know if he uses the profanity, but he goes,
Well, that would be the exact right
I'm
profanity.
a superhero.
Yeah.
Maybe he did. Maybe I just kind of toned that out. I
Of
don't
all
know.
the profanities, we don't have one that we don't. Nobody says father fucking. We all say that's motherfucking seems to really have a nice flow out of the mouth. But anyway, then he gets killed. He gets smushed, right? Just at that moment.
Yeah, he gets absolutely annihilated
Yeah.
by,
A limb.
one of the limbs
Yeah.
flopping down and smashing him.
Right. So Harley Quinn is inside its eyeball, and then now the rat girl brings up all her pal rats, and there's always a lot of rats in every city, but I think they kind of embellish the availability of rat hordes. the rats are starting to swarm and crawl all over this thing and getting on it, and enough rats can pretty much take down anything. I actually even said earlier in the movie that she was one of the more powerful people, because and my reasoning was that because of her rat powers is that she can send them off. She doesn't have to be in the same room or with an eyesight to get them to do something, and large amounts of rats can hurt and can do all kinds of weird stuff, or just scare, or just cause a lot of chaos. I'm the president of the Crispin Glover fan club, so we just get together every Sunday and watch Willard. The rats are now swarming up Starro, right? And do they start crawling into the eye? Is that what happens? And now there's just tons of rats inside its eyeball?
Yep. And you can see them swimming past Harley, and they're just chewing through what makes Starro.
Yeah, chewing on the wires, eating all the wires, basically.
Yep, as rats do. And one of the nicer touches to it is that it cuts out and shows the rest of the heroes watching from afar, and Starro's eye is just filling up with blood, which is really nasty.
Yeah.
But this is where we get the line from Starro, and actually there was one other line that we kind of glossed over, and that was what Ratcatcher 2 said right before she launched her attack, and that was, Starro said, "This is my island, it belongs to me," and she goes, "No, this island belongs to them," and then the millions of rats come out.
Right, okay.
And actually, Idris Elba's character, and this is kind of an important thing, because earlier in the movie when they're both on the bus together, Idris tells her, "I'm going to get you out of this alive." And she looks back at him and goes, "No, I'm going to get you out of this alive." And she almost gets crushed by Starro, but Bloodsport comes flying in and just kind of dives on her and knocks her out of the way of a killing blow from Starro.
Wait, was she like kind of intentionally trying to get killed, or like was?
No, she was up on like the hood of a car using her device to call the rats. So she was focused on calling the rats,
right?
Not oblivious to the fact that one of the tentacles, well, not tentacles, one of the arms was coming down, about to crush the car.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't necessarily mean like she was trying to kill herself, but like she knew she was risking her life and she was going to die for the fight. Like that's different than being like suicidal, I guess. But that he saves her though. He pushes her out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she makes good on her word, and she saves everybody with the power of the rats.
Power of the rats, man. Can't deny it. Rats and cockroaches. They're going to be the ones to cause the next intelligent species after humans kill ourselves with...
Yep.
Go ahead.
Before Jotunheim exploded, the starfish Starro did get a hold of Peter Capaldi's character, grabbed him and just ripped one of his arms and legs off and smashed the rest of his body against the glass while he was pleading for his life from it. But he had been torturing him for 30 years, so there's no way it was going to show mercy to him. So
right.
We didn't really talk about how his arc ended, but his arc ended in a big bloody smear across glass.
The guy with the fuses on his head.
The Thinker.
Yeah, the Thinker. Now, you had mentioned a line that the starfish says near the end.
Oh, at the very end.
I thought this is a smart line. I have a couple of comments.
Yeah, so at the very end, as the starfish is falling down, it's speaking through the leader of the new militant group, and it says, I don't want to get this wrong, but it says, "I was happy floating in space, staring at the stars."
Yeah, something like that. Like I was in space. I was happy. I was so happy in the space looking at the stars.
Yeah. So it didn't want any conflict. It didn't want to be brought to Earth. It didn't want to be experimented on.
Yeah.
It just wanted to be left alone.
Just a weird space creature that got too close to a really scary planet. That's basically what happened.
So it's just like this tragic story all around.
Yeah.
So basically what happens at this point, though, is Idris Elba has the hard drive now, and he contacts Amanda Waller and says, "I've got the evidence. I know what's going on. I know what the U.S. government did. And if anything ever happens to anyone on this team, the information goes out. It goes out into a cloud or whatever. This is my insurance plan." And he wants everybody released and says, I don't want 10 years off my sentence. I want to be free now. And she was like, "Okay, when I said that I'd make you a leader, well, deal."
So they have... is that blackmail, or do they have collateral on her now? So they'd say like, "You got to let us go, or else we're going to reveal all this stuff."
And it's a little bittersweet because Rick Flag died because he wanted to bring that information to the public.
Yeah.
And instead of doing the truly good thing by doing that, they're instead using it as leverage to buy their own freedom.
Right. Yeah. So in fact, doesn't one of the other characters even says something like, while he's sort of negotiating this deal with Amanda Waller, something about like, shouldn't we let the world know what they're doing or something? But he uses it to get all their freedom or something. Right? Yeah. Okay. Good. And then it ends.
Yeah, and, of course, there's certain things that we didn't talk about, like little comedic scenes with King Shark, where he's making friends with these little jellyfish things that when they explode, when the bombs go off in Jotunheim, they come out and start attaching to him and biting his flesh.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird because if his flesh is bulletproof, then why are these things able to penetrate with their teeth? Again, don't worry about it. Have fun.
It's not teeth-proof, bulletproof.
Yeah. And,
no, I'm joking. But no, it's plausible that these odd, goofy, cute little, Furby-looking underwater Furby things. Okay, well, their superpower is that they can bite through the shark skin. It's all magic. Yeah. It's the same. It's all like, let me just say though, there's that sequence where the shark, who sort of has a childlike innocence about it, he just wants friends and home and community and connection, and it sees this big aquarium room, which seems to be designed just for this sequence, where he goes in there, and the way that they do him. Everybody's seen the videos on YouTube and TikTok and fucking Instagram where like some little kid is playing with a narwhal. They don't really put narwhals in aquariums, do they? With a beluga whale. And they step to the left, and then the beluga whale swims over to the left. The beluga whale is right. And then so he kind of bounces, but I just like the animal behavior, like the way they did the little cute characters, but there was one shot that jumped out at me where because it's all CGI, although it's probably I bet King Shark is an actor in a motion capture suit, but that's my assumption.
You don't friends.
There's one shot where the shark moves in a way and the camera moves to accommodate the shark moving, but the camera moves a little too far, like it doesn't ruin anything. It's very deliberately done, but I could have just been picking up on something that wasn't there, but it was intentionally imperfect, which I thought was really good. Like there's a little bit of that like kind of handheld camera shake to it as well. I don't know why. I'm not sure if anybody else noticed that. It was very subtle. I just remember thinking like, they didn't frame that quite. Like the camera moved too much for that, but that was really smart to leave. I just really like that they kept it like that. I think it was not even that they screwed up and they realized and they said, oh, let's keep our mistake. I think it was just a good choice. Those are the sorts of things I think are interesting in movies, that choices that directors make. Like, for instance, sorry, I know I'm just rambling here, but there's one shot earlier in the movie, about a third of the way in. I think it's like a transitionary moment between them being with the rebel group or something, and they're sleeping. So this is, I think, right before they're in the jungle now. Like they're away from the beach, and they show a local animal. I think it's a gibbon, one of those weird jungle monkeys. Actually, kind of beautiful flowing hair, like the sort of golden. And they just showed it. Like it was just an establishing shot, but it was just like a well filmed shot. Could have been out of a nature documentary. The thing they never showed it again. It wasn't part of any plot or anything, but it was, I don't know, I just remember being like, oh, I like that they showed that gibbon, if that's even what that is, whatever it's called. I don't know. Anyway, those are two camera director choices that jumped out at me that are still in my brain that I'm putting into this podcast. James, go ahead. You go ahead with the shark. The shark being eaten and stuff. You were going to mention some other moments.
Moments we didn't talk about. That there's not really a whole lot of other ones that have significance to the plot. I don't think.
I got a good one at the very beginning. One of the characters, Nathan Fillion, his superpower, his arms come off, right?
Yeah, he
fly around.
TDK, the detachable character.
TDK. Oh, that's what TDK stands for, huh? There's the nameless, faceless goons who have guns in the woods. They're shooting at his arms, and they're shooting his arms while they're in the air, and he's going, ow, ow. He's like getting hit. I just remember thinking how funny it is that they were shooting his arms. I would have shot his
and
arms.
yet his body, he's gurgling blood back laying on the ground, and he dies from bullet wounds to his arms, which are detached from him, which is a little bit weird. I don't quite get how that works, but I don't think we're supposed to get how that works.
There's a song called Detachable Penis, which was the hit song of 1996. So I guess that's just everything just comes full circle. We truly are in the time of genius artistic creators. Shakespeare would roll over in his umlaut. What is an umlaut? Okay. James, what else? What else is there?
I guess we could mention that, and we kind of forgot this in the very beginning, but Idris Elba's character has this connection with Ratcatcher 2 where he sees her as like a daughter figure that he has to protect.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a crippling fear of rats himself that's pervasive from the beginning through the end of the movie, and the movie kind of ends with her, she controls millions of rats, but she has one particular rat that wears a little vest that hangs out on her shoulder and waves to people, but that's her main rat.
Yeah.
And it goes and sits on Idris Elba's knee, and he actually very slowly and consciously reaches down and starts petting it to show that he himself is growing as a character as well.
That's right. Yeah, I recall the hoping that they wouldn't grow, let him. It would have been funny if he still hated rats by the end of it. Like he's just sometimes you don't need to have the character development. But anyway, I didn't care. It was fine that they let him. You knew it was going to happen. It was pretty predictable that he was going to eventually have to overcome his fear of rats. Idris Elba's funny. I never thought of him as a comedic actor. He's always just sort of like a leading man, or an action guy. But he's actually funny in this. The casting choices I thought were all very good. Everything kind of coalesces extremely well in this movie.
Yeah, he had one kind of humorous moment, but it seemed like, to me, the rest of the whole movie was him playing a particular role that wasn't comedic, but did have a comedic undertone based on the reactions that other people had to him. So they weren't trying to make him into a funny character, but he was unintentionally comedic in certain scenes. It worked, though.
The tone of the movie is sort of, in my notes I wrote self-aware. That's why this movie works, in my opinion. It knows it's crazy, it knows it's nonsense, and it's leaning hard into the spectacle. But they do a good job subtly and kind of simply, but there's a lot of characters, so it's sort of a little hard to track, but they do a good job with the backstories of every character, or at least most of them, I suppose, as well as the way a backstory works for the viewer is if you now understand the character's decisions a little better after you've seen their backstory. So usually by the second half of the movie, you're supposed to be on board with kind of knowing why various characters make choices they make, right? Even if it's a choice you wouldn't make or you wouldn't agree with, or if it's the wrong choice or the right choice. So they do a good job giving you a sense that you understand these characters based on their sort of backstories a little bit. I thought that's like an overall note on what makes any movie effective. And for a movie like this, so often, like action movies, superhero movies, you just don't quite, nothing. Like I watched Ant-Man versus the Wasp or whatever the fuck, and I was just like, all right. So everything's going to get small. I don't even remember. But so many movies just miss that. And this movie, I thought, hit those notes quite well.
Yeah, so I think it's probably safe to say that we both liked the movie.
Yeah.
I had a good time with it. But what if anything, didn't work for you?
Ooh, I love the question. What didn't work? There was one scene in the middle that, like, the Harley Quinn love sequence with, like, the dictator, the handsome guy that took over the country or whatever. Like, the way it just went down too long. Movies like this need tonal breaks. Like, if you think of it as a roller coaster, you got to have a couple of flat stretches after the busy stretch just to kind of like catch your breath a little bit. So I think that scene sort of functioned as that. But if I were editing it, I would cut that scene down quite a lot. But also, like, they had already sort of established that they're gonna, or at least with me, that my expectations were going to be challenged, like with the prison scene where he talks to his daughter through the glass, because I had made the wrong assumptions when I first saw that scene. So that was about it. I mean, I could make the same kind of generic objections I have to most action superhero stories. You kind of know they're going to come out on the end. You kind of know, like, it's usually good. Shit's going to work out.
I mean,
But I don't have too many large complaints, and I don't even think that really applies to this one.
I'd say that this kind of movie it kind of flies in the face of the superhero trope that everyone's going to be okay in the end because you have Polka Dot Man who died. In the original script, Ratcatcher 2 was supposed to die at the very end. They changed it at the last moment. You have yes.
And they kill everybody at the beginning. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
They're not going to get rid of Harley Quinn because she has been in multiple movies. She's a favorite. She's inherent to DC lore. There's no way they're going to do that.
Right.
But pretty much everybody else is, up on the table. I mean, Rick Flag was a big character. They killed Rick Flag.
Right.
Presumably they killed Peacemaker. We find out after the end credits that he's still alive, which we know he has to still be alive because they're doing their sort of like Loki-ish spin-off series with him.
Okay.
And,
oh, really? So there's a whole other series with Peacemaker?
Huh?
With John Cena is going to be lead a whole thing?
Oh,
Peacemaker?
yeah, he's got his own show.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead, I interrupted you there.
Oh, no, and Weasel is still alive, we find out at the very end, which is, it's kind of a little Easter egg, who really cares, but yeah, Weasel is alive.
Well, yeah, they show Weasel waking up on the beach, so I guess they just left his body to sit there, but yeah, he wakes up, he's actually alive, so he did not drown.
The only thing that didn't really work for me, though, is there's certain characters like Margot Robbie who gets lost in, you don't see her, you see Harley Quinn, because she does the role so well that she vanishes into the character, and it works perfectly well.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Flag, you still know it's Joel Kinnaman, but he's playing like the straight-laced government guy. He does it really well. It works for me. Sylvester Stallone as a shark, you don't really see Stallone because he's a fully CGI character.
Right.
Polka Dot Man, never seen him before. I believe him. My mind isn't just seeing him as something other than that character, so it works perfectly. But John Cena, every time I see him on screen, it's like, oh, that's just John Cena in a silly hat. Oh, that's just John Cena, being John Cena.
Yeah.
So that part was a little bit hard for me trying to see past him. And that's not to say that he didn't do a good job. It's just that he is so physically distinct, and his mannerisms and his styles are so just unique to him as a person that he didn't vanish as much as I would have liked him to into that role. Yeah.
Do you think that's a factor of being a wrestler? Like that wrestlers are such kind of precise, cartoonish, bigger than life, over the top? Because like every wrestler who makes an acting career, The Rock, who else is there? The Hulk. Who's the blonde old white guy? Incredible Hulk Hogan. I don't know if he ever really became like a standalone actor. I mean, I think he acted in some movies, but always as himself.
Yeah, he was in Gremlins too.
Yeah, as Hulk though, right?
Yeah.
How could he not? How could he play anything other than Hulk? Like he's not going to be like him and Tilda Swinton, going toe to toe. So I agree with you though about John Cena. Like it's hard not to see him as just like this big wrestler guy that he is. Although I'm not like a huge wrestler dude, so it's funny though how that applies to him. Even though Idris Elba is every bit probably more famous than John Cena. I mean, isn't he? Like it's strange how that works.
No, I had a slight kind of comparable issue with Idris Elba, not so much as him though.
Okay.
But aside from that, I think it all kind of worked together well. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, it
was a very decent movie.
Yeah. If that's your complaint, that John Cena is kind of hard to detach from him, that's not that much of a complaint about the movie. And mine is like, there was one scene that's a little boring in the middle.
Yeah, it's sort of like that infamous episode of Saturday Night Live where they brought Elon Musk on. It's like, you see him in a sketch, it's like, oh, it's still Elon Musk.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, who gives a shit about that fucking guy? Yeah, that's for sure. I agree. Really good movie. I think it benefits from going in. We saw it. I think we watched it like the first day or two it was out, so we hadn't seen any reviews or something, right, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But also we had the benefit of having seen the previous Suicide Squad, which is horrible, so the expectations were probably lowered. So that always helps a movie. Oh, I got to put the camera on me. I keep forgetting. So I think that helps this movie. But I thought it was a very well executed, competently done comedy action superhero movie. It rang very close to Guardians of the Galaxy for me.
Oh.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to point out that parallel, right?
The thing that I was waiting to say when you were finished with that thought was, it's no Guardians of the Galaxy. That's exactly what I was queuing myself up to say, because it's a good movie. I had fun with it, but the chemistry between the characters just doesn't resonate on the same level as the Guardians of the Galaxy. The music and the tonality and everything. He hit a grand slam with Guardians, and on this one, it has his same style and the same feel, but I don't think the story and the characters are of the same caliber as Guardians. Still a good movie, though. I enjoy it, but I just don't put those on the same level. If I had to put a hierarchy, Guardians would be way up high, and this would be not so close a second.
Nope. No. Wrong answer. This was better than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, no.
Better. No. I actually do think it was better, but I have, not that I can defend any of my stupid opinions, but I thought it was, you could almost criticize it for borrowing too closely from Guardians of the Galaxy. I actually was thinking, you could argue, you could persuade me, or at least I would understand those arguments, that this was kind of trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. We had two rodent characters, didn't we? We had the weasel, because everybody loves a rocket, right? Isn't that the fucking raccoon? Is that the raccoon?
Yes.
Yeah, so people want to have a sassy rocket, or a sassy mammal. Everybody, all superhero crews from now on are going to have some sort of sassy mammal. Weasel's a great choice. And then of course they killed it, and then they brought it back to life at the very end. But there was also the rats, right? Or am I missing? But
You're equating Groot and King Shark together?
Groot, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, like Groot, yeah, King Shark and Groot had the similar vocabulary. King Shark's is a little bit bigger. Definitely the smarter of the... No, maybe not smarter, but... The musical choices, there had some sequences that were, obviously same director, right? So, we have a similar sensibility. So, of course, you're going to have those comparisons. I agree, though, that, the story of Guardians of the Galaxy would probably win out over this story. But I just felt like the overall kind of... I think I locked into this as a comedy during the first sequence, and that's what helped me keep it a little bit out of the superhero realm for me, as far as what restaurant do you think you're at right now, kind of thing. I was like, oh yeah, this is a good comedy. I'm digging this, and the action was used for laughs and to help the comedy go forward. And as I said earlier, this movie felt self-aware, which is, I think, something that a movie like this kind of has to be, or else, because how could you take yourself seriously, or a movie like this that took itself seriously would be absurd.
Right, which I think is the downfall of the first Suicide Squad movie, is that it tried to take itself a little bit more seriously than it should.
Yeah, for sure. Is it Will Smith in that one?
Yep, Will Smith is basically playing the Bloodsport role, but he's not the same character or the same, but yeah, Deadshot, I believe is what he was. He was kind of the same kind of character.
Yeah,
the reluctant leader who was forced in beyond his, against his will to lead a ragtag team of villains. An
effortless killer, the opening sequence of the first one, isn't he he's doing an assassination, but he's not been paid, and so he's getting the money on his phone in that shitty movie way, while he's shoot. It's it was just so dumb.
And then there's this big sequence where he's showcasing what his true skills are, and they have him in the prison yard, and they put a whole table of guns in front of him. It's why would you put a whole table full of guns in front of a guy who can take you all out in a split second using guns? But they have these targets pop up, and he just keeps shooting the bullets through the same hole to the point where every single target has a glowing red circle right on the center of its head, where he shot 50 bullets in the same exact area.
Oh, the heat from each bullet warmed it up?
So it's basically he just never misses, ever.
Got it. Huh. Anything else you want to add? I think I might have interrupted you there, or no? Did I?
No, I mean, I would say, to go back to the Guardians of the Galaxy slant, I would say that in terms, story definitely would be the stronger thing in Guardians as opposed to this movie. I would say from a music standpoint, they both have good music, but nothing in my mind beats Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of the music choices and the amount of music and the just absolutely amazing in that case. And the thing between the two movies that I always go back to is that if I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy and Groot died, or Rocket the Raccoon died, or Yando, who does end up dies. That would be a big emotional hit to me. It'd be like, oh God, no, I love that character. No.
Mm-hmm.
But, if watching this movie, if Ratcatcher 2 had died, I'd be like, oh, that sucks. Rick Flag died. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, there'll
John
be another.
Cena went down. Oh, that sucks. I mean, it doesn't. I didn't really care about the characters even slightly as much. That to me is a hallmark of good writing, though. It's like, how much does the movie make you care about the characters? Guardians, I cared about them. This movie, I mean, I love Polka Dot Guy, and even when he bit the dust, I was like, well, that
Right.
sucks.
Yeah, I that's persuasive. Like, I agree that Guardians made you care a little more. I think my rejoinder is that this movie, at least, not even at least, but like, I understood them. I sort of made that case a little earlier about like doing a good job with succinctly showing their backstories. So I did understand these characters, but they kind of give you that too in Guardians too, as well as if we're making this comparison for our master's thesis in sociological cultural, development. If we're James and I are very sophisticated. We're both getting graduate degrees in shows and games. What the fuck am I talking about? So yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I get why the Guardians worked so well, especially with the music. I mean, Guardians was like, the music was so foundational to it. It was, like, and by the way, James, I'm still waiting for that mixtape I asked you to make for me.
No.
Natalie
yes.
Merchant, songs only.
I will get on it.
All right, get on it. Anything else you want to throw out? Anything at all? Any comment? Any other movies you've seen? Anything else? I think we're.
We watched. What was that movie? Werewolves Within. That was. I mean, they tried hard, and it had its moments, and it was a quirky kind of like Shaun of the Dead movie that didn't really hit the mark completely.
Compared to another movie we watched, though, The Wolf of Snow County, Snow Hollow. Werewolves Within, far better. If those are the two, if that's the measuring stick.
I do feel like I need to go back and rewatch the Snow Hollow movie without any sort of mind-altering substances being imbibed beforehand.
Perhaps.
Just to give it a fair shake, but what I experienced while in that state was just abysmal.
And normally that's a experience-enhancing state, I've read. That's awful kind and fair of you to suggest. But yes, werewolf movie, Werewolves Within, kind of a if Clue had a baby with the Snow Hollow movie, right? Would you just say?
Yeah.
Like a mystery of who's whatever. And then the Tomorrow War was I think on Netflix, some fucking stream, starring Chris Pratt, where he is recruited from the future to go have a war, and he goes there, and then he and his daughter solve stuff.
Yes, which also goes and speaks to the skill of James Gunn and the good writing in Guardians of the Galaxy, because if Chris Pratt had been killed in Guardians, I would have been very upset. But this movie, I was just, the entire way through it, I was like, please let him die, kill him, kill everyone.
Yeah. The real villain was James-O, not Starro.
Yes.
James was also similarly discovered. NASA found him attached to the outside of the International Space Station, just holding on,
Yes.
with his prehensile toes.
There was something that I was hoping to see with Starro the whole time I was watching. Is, as you know, a starfish to eat, and you're the aquarium guy.
I am the aquarium guy.
But I always heard that a starfish will actually push its stomach out and use it as like throwing a sleeping bag over top of something else, and just absorbs it and pulls things back into it.
Yes, I think that actually is true. I don't know if that's necessarily like they shoot it out like a person trying to like throw a net out to catch minnows or something.
It
but
exudes its stomach out or something.
I think it kind of is detachable slightly, or it's sort of a membrane that sort of comes out.
I was hoping to see a scene like that where there's just a whole bunch of people being sucked into its stomach, but it didn't happen. That would have been disturbing, but disturbing in a funny, grotesque way.
Yeah. Well, they put the eyeball in the middle of the body and kind of moved the like the legs sort of had like a opening kind of flaps, so there was more to that. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, starfish are interesting. Right. Well, I mean, they had to show its back at some point. I think it was just sort of a muscled back. I used to work with the aquarium. There's a type of starfish called a chocolate chip starfish, and it looks like a pretty little cookie. And on its back, it has these little spikes. It's actually brown with like dark chocolate colored spikes on the back that look like chocolate chips, and they don't taste like chocolate chips though. Very not even a little bit. They taste like starfish.
Yeah, I would strongly advise against Googling chocolate starfish
Oh,
or brown starfish.
why did you just do that?
Oh, no,
that
no,
poop?
because starfish is they even mention it in the movie, is that it's slang for a butthole.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And a chocolate starfish is a slang term for a butthole.
Yeah, so I get why you're. Yeah, that's good wisdom. It's good wisdom. You've been reading the right fortune cookies, James.
Yep.
Kurt Vonnegut for that he I don't know which book of his, but he draws a picture of an asshole. It's just an asterisk, basically. Quite accurate. Quite accurate. Yeah, James, when you were a teen, like a young person going through puberty and starting to explore your body, did you ever?
I held down the square button and just skipped the cutscene.
Held down the square button. No, nobody gets to skip the teenage cutscene as much as maybe afterwards, after all the trauma. I fucking hated being a teen. Being a teen sucked. So did being an adult and being a kid. You know what I liked? Baby. Had a great time. Great time. Nipples, fake nipples, sleep. I had all three food groups. It was perfect.
And you got to use the bathroom all over beds and stuff too. And
I peed in my dad's face twice.
Fine.
Now I do that, and he gets all upset. Gets fucking angry at me. Yeah, that is true. What were we talking about? I don't know. Starfish. Starro. Yeah, I've actually caught starfish when I lived in Seattle for a stretch when I was much younger, and I would go crab fishing with dip nets, which are basically like if you picture a ring about the size of a small pizza and a ring about the size of a very extra large pizza, and then those are attached, and so it sits flat on the bottom, and you put cat food or chicken, both of which are crabs' natural predators. You're going for rock crabs or Dungeness crabs, and they'll be attracted to it to kill the cat food, and then they'll be in your net, and when you pull on the strings, it forms a basket, and then you can catch them, and then they have to be a certain size, you get to keep them or not. But you also would get lots of starfish. These fucking things would crawl them, gross ass things. There's like some kind of starfish that's huge. It has more than 5. So we all think of starfish as having 5, like the Pentagon, basically. 5 sides, 5 things. It's called pentameral symmetry. So there's the starfish that have a whole bunch, they have like 30. It's a multiple of 5, I think. Could totally be wrong. I have no idea. But I know that's a thing called pentameral symmetry that starfish have. So because they're symmetrical across 5 different axes. And so, yeah, I remember catching these big, ugly starfish. And they're huge. They're heavy, too, because you got to, like shake them out of your basket. It's kind of awkward, and they fall off because you've hauled them up about 12 or 15 feet, and they slap down on the water real hard. Then PETA gets mad at you for abusing starfish. It was a whole scene, James. So yeah, I've had a lot of good experiences with starfish in my life.
What is a starfish's regenerative capabilities? Because I know these old urban legends said, "Oh, if you cut its arm off, a new starfish will grow off." That's nonsense, right?
They're chameleon fish with their tails. I have no idea. I don't know. Probably. Fucking what the fuck do I know? I don't know.
I would believe that they can regenerate an arm, but I don't think that the arm that cuts off is going to regenerate a new starfish off of that arm.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't think you can, I don't think you can take the arm and then a starfish will come out of the arm. But yeah, I think growing an arm out the other direction, that's plausible.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me. The other way around just sounds like bizarro science fiction.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, nor I don't think it works with worms either, where you cut them in half and then it'll heal up and then it'll just wiggle around as 2 separate chunks for a while.
I feel like it's one of those misnomers that people say so often with conviction that people believe, sort of like how some people believe that porcupines can shoot their quills. They absolutely cannot. I mean, that's ridiculous, but a lot of people think that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good belief, though. If you think that porcupines can shoot your quills, you're safer from porcupine attacks because you'll be even more worried about porcupines. You know?
Yeah.
You grew up in a porcupine area, right?
Or you might be in worse shape because you'd be going up against him. It's like, okay, he's only got one shot. He's only got one shot.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And you could just distract it with like a target and like let it shoot like Osama bin Laden on a target. Take that. It's a very patriotic, crazed porcupine. James, have you ever been in a porcupine situation with a dog or something? Or have you ever actually been around an animal or a person that's been stabbed? I would assume you've had so many experiences with animals in your past that you've probably been stabbed by porcupines multiple times.
No, I mean, if you pet them in the right way and you don't go against the back, it's not going to hurt you.
Like a cat's tongue. You can pet that the right way, and it's not
Yeah, I mean,
bristly.
I've seen plenty of pictures of dogs whose faces are full of quills and things like that. I've just never actually been around one.
Never seen it in person.
No.
Yeah, you hear about you see it online every once in a while. Some poor dog has just a whole face full of spikes. And you're like, oh man, and they got to go to the vet, and it's brutal. They got to just cut them and yank them out. And I've seen a snake, not in real life. I've never seen a real porcupine, actually. Never. Nor do I hope to encounter somebody, a human or an animal who's injured by it. But what a cool defense, though, isn't it? Just like they just form this pin cushion. They're just beavers that have pin cushions on them. It's awesome.
Yeah, but think about the poor, like, you see the dog that has all the quills in its face, but you have to realize those quills came from somewhere, so now you've got a porcupine that looks like he's balding.
Right? Yeah, like me and my face. I'm losing more hair in my fucking beard, man. I have another patch. I wonder if this is long COVID. I hope it is. Otherwise, I'm a freak.
It starts moving up to the top of your head, though. It's like it disappears from one place and it starts growing.
That would be good. I would like to transfer my ball hair to my head and solve two problems at once. I'd love to do that. Well, all right, good. Yeah, I could talk about porcupines a little more, but I choose not to. Let us know in the comments below, everybody. Have you ever been around a real life porcupine that stabbed your dog or maybe your friend's hand or your hand or something even worse than a hand? A lot of nerve endings in hands, but they do not have the monopoly on nerve endings. Don't kiss your porcupines, everybody. Okay?
Why do they always call them nerve endings? Where do the nerves begin?
At the nerve beginnings, dumbass.
No one ever talks about that.
The spine. They begin at the spine and the brain.
But how long are they?
I could ask my brother. He's a nerve ending doctor. Literally, he's a neuroscientist. I don't know if that's a nerve ending. Yeah, good question though. Nerve endings. But what about the middle? Maybe the real nerve ending is the electrical impulses along the way.
And anytime you feel something, you're using your nerves. So if I pick up this glass right here, I could say this glass is getting on my nerves. Because technically it is.
You took a lot of nerve to say that. One time I was doing homework for English and French class, and the teacher noticed, and she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "English homework." And she goes, "You got a lot of nerve." And then I peed all over her. I think that's the hardest I've ever made James laugh.
I like that.
I've known you for like 8 years.
Anytime it's like you bring back something from an earlier point and make it work, that gets me.
Comedy technique, man. It's called a callback. So let's talk about Suicide Squad. See, there's a callback. See,
yes.
Terrible joke. So stupid. Why did I'm sorry. All right, guys. James, anything you want to add?
No, I think that pretty much sums up the movie. If you've got HBO Max, watch it. It's good. I think it goes off on September 5th, I want to say. So,
all right.
Get on it while you can.
Get it while it's hot. Tomorrow War, if you got a chance to watch it, it might be all right. Being a werewolf, whatever the fuck, that was okay, whatever. But Suicide Squad's a good Saturday watch. It's a good watch it with some friends, watch it by yourself. Good. It's a good night watch. Get some popcorn, some caramel corn, mix the cheese with the butter, with the caramel, sprinkle a little chocolate on that, the kind of chocolate that dries hard, and now you have a wonderful treat. Put this movie on. Give all your friends hand jobs. Everybody has a great time. It's going to be a really wonderful way to spend a day. That's my final Roger Ebert recommendation. 6 toes up. James, would you say you agree?
With most of that, except no few notable exceptions, but yeah.
I love making James uncomfortable. It's so fun. It's so fun. The thing is, he doesn't even realize all the times I watch him sleep. Where's he going? Don't get up. He's getting up and leaving. All right, guys, that's it. Hope this was fun. I'm doing a... Whoa, what is this guy? Attacking me? You better not hook me with your harpoon. I would be very angry if you did that.
If only I could.
Wait a minute.
Oh no, your pig!
What's he doing? Oh, sometimes he attacks the... That's okay. I've got a victim cornered. Okay, he's at 66%. Maybe I can give him... I don't have anything you'd like to eat. I gotta go...
What's his name?
Name is James. I was trying to pick up...
What did he go with?
Sorry, I know this is not part of the review here, but I was just trying to pick up a turnip. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you didn't hate seeing me on camera. Probably should have been on camera at the very beginning of this channel. Here, I'm going to try to eat that. I don't know what... Once they're angry... I don't know. Haven't quite gotten a great grip on boar psychology in the Valheim world. But, yeah, this is the Valheim game, guys. If you're curious, I'm in camera. Same kind of graphical setup on the screen. So there's like 200 hours of me playing this game. James, don't you dare harpoon me. Do not harpoon me while I run away slowly. Do not. Ah, you suck. Do not harpoon me.
In order to do that, we'd have to turn PvP on, which we have not.
Oh. You mean... Now it's enabled. But I can't get out of this fucking screen. Okay. Do not harpoon me. Wait a minute. I said don't. Not cool. Not cool, James. Let us know, guys, in the comments if you saw Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad. And, ooh, I got away. Walk away. And do you think it's better or worse than Guardians of the Galaxy? I think we all agree that they're clearly, you know, valid comparisons for sure. But better or... Whoa! I got flung about. Don't you dare harpoon that neck, James. Oh. Jeez. Cold-blooded murder. Jesus. James. Creep. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. James, I hope your heart... Hey! James's heart. How is your heart, buddy? Heart's feeling good?
It's still working.
Yes. Still got a working heart. And if not, I'll just give you that compression thing for the rest of your life until it, you know, keep you going. Yeah, I don't know how to say goodbye. I'm bad at this part. So, you know, hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're getting angry at all the anti-vaxxers. That seems to be what anybody can think about these days. Yeah, the world is a nightmare. So do everything you can to take care of yourself and those around you, and be well and be safe, and do good around you. Oh yeah, I'm doing woodworking a shit ton. I do it fucking full time all week, and I'm building stuff. Really cool candle holder. Got it right here. So I've got a cool design and stuff. I'm going to be opening my Etsy shop again. And if anybody is interested, it would be encouraging if you left a comment. But there will be stuff available that I've spent so much money on shipping supplies. My Uber's here. Gotta go, everybody. Sorry. There we go. So take me to Chipotle, please. The one in Beverly Hills, because I want to see if I can run into Ted Danson. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. See you, James.
Oh, see ya.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Turning it off. Just go off the cliff. Go. I like this Uber driver. 5 stars. Look at him. He had a backup plan. Perfect.